What were you more pissed off about, Eric? Having a little technical problem this morning or watching AEW Dynamite last night?
Man, I don't think I was pissed off last night watching it. Although, I read back some of my tweets this morning. Clearly, I was agitated. But it was just it's more frustrating than anything. It didn't make me angry. It's just like, God almighty, talk about blowing opportunities. Like it drives me crazy, but it is what it is.
I've always been the eternal optimist for AEW, but I didn't get to watch the show live last night. I started watching this morning on DVR when you were having some technical problems. I saw the first half of the show, and man, usually I can find something that I'm pretty excited about and looking forward to with AEW, and I'm kind of struggling right now to find it. Is there a bright spot right now for AEW? I know that we've established that there's not some magical talent they can sign and that'll turn their fares around, but is there something they can do to re-engage this audience and get them excited? Because it does feel like, there was so much optimism around AEW, and it feels like as time goes on, some of that starts to wane. And I think maybe right now, justifiably a little bit.
I don't think it's waning. I think what's happened is there was so much goodwill early on. Everybody wanted AEW to be successful. Everybody wanted a fresh alternative. And, there was a lot of promise. Tony, convinced people in the very beginning that this was going to be an alternative and it was going to be a sports-based, wrestling product. And there was a lot of things that Tony hyped, that gave everybody a lot of optimism and excitement and goodwill. The problem with goodwill is once you crap on those people, once you fail to deliver on your promises, and then over the last couple of years produced such horrible television that goodwill, they don't just fade away. The viewers do, and we've seen that. But the goodwill comes back to bite you in the ass because then people are pissed off.
Right.
It's like you promised somebody something and then you didn't deliver, and all you're doing is making excuses for it. And that goodwill can really come back and bite you in the ass if you're not careful.
I hope they can turn it around. But, something I wanted to bring up that I know the internet wrestling community's had a lot of fun with, but I want to ask you, I know that the base of AEW fans, the AEW fan base, does not want anything to do with the Costco guys being at Full Gear. I get that. But it's a 0-hour match against QT Marshall, who's pretty valuable behind the scenes for AEW. He helps run, the Nightmare Factory in Atlanta with Cody Rhodes. A lot of great AEW talent has gone through there. Like, he's the office, for the company. And he's got a match, as silly as it may be. I can't believe this is real with the Costco guys. And they are, for better or worse, pretty big deal virally, to the point where they wound up on the Tonight Show. So it's one thing for us all to sort of cross our arms. And I've seen a lot of, even my internet wrestling friends pitching an absolute fit that this match is going to happen at Full Gear. But it's like, they got on the Tonight Show. And respectfully, there's not a whole list of AEW talent who could just pick up the phone and get on the Tonight Show. Like, whether you
none of them, like not one of them.
Well, that's my point. You finally got a little bit of mainstream attention here, as silly as it may be. And I'm not saying that the Costco guys need to take over the AEW programming, but we're not even seeing like AEW engage with them socially, I don't think, to sort of build any sort of hype or story or whatever. And I know there's criticism to go around about, well, they're involving children in the viral thing. The kids aren't going to be in the match. It's with the dad. They could have done something, but it feels like they're content to not try. And I know that, we look back and we say, well, we didn't like that Jay Leno was involved with WCW. Yeah, but you were courting mainstream attention. You're trying to get people who don't normally watch the product to watch AEW. So you had Jay Leno and you had an opportunity to go on the Tonight Show. But it feels like AEW thinks maybe the brass believes this is beneath them to court mainstream attention, but I just don't get why you wouldn't even try.
There's so much inherently wrong, and it starts with Tony Khan. It starts with the lack of vision, absolute lack of understanding, zero comprehension of what the wrestling audience, the 3 to 5 million active wrestling fans, depending on who you believe, that do tune in to wrestling each and every week. That's your audience. It's not Dave Meltzer's fucking figure 4 online dirt sheet universe, but that's who Tony Khan is booking to. Everything that's done in AEW is done from the perspective of Tony Khan's fandom. And unfortunately, Tony Khan's fandom doesn't represent the other 98.8% of people that enjoy professional wrestling. Tony's booking for himself in his own fantasy. There's nothing resembling a thought process, creative or otherwise, as you just pointed out. That's a marketing positioning opportunity. It's reaching an audience, as you just said, that you don't normally reach.
Right.
And it's fun. It should be fun. It shouldn't be taken seriously. And the internet wrestling community, which are the simps that follow the Dave Meltzer line of thinking about what professional wrestling should be, they have zero creativity. They live in a little bubble. They're only comfortable with people just like them. And they just don't have any vision themselves. And that's who Tony Khan is, it's the cage match ranking crowd, along with Dave Meltzer. It's just such a waste of opportunity. And Tony probably doesn't care about wasting his money. He's got so much of it, it doesn't matter to him. But it matters to the industry. When people say, AEW is good for the industry. Fuck, it is. There's nothing good about it. It's good for the people that get a paycheck that might not otherwise be getting one in the wrestling business. It's good for them. Of course it is. And I don't begrudge them taking advantage of the opportunity. But to suggest that it's AEW's good for the wrestling industry, and I'll tell you why. Because any network executives that stumble across AEW and thinking about perhaps getting involved in the wrestling business, and they see AEW, it's like, fuck, no, I don't want to do that. That's horrible. I don't want that on my network. I don't want anything close to that on my network. It is bad for the business. It's a bad representation of what the professional wrestling industry can be on television. It's horrible. There's nothing. I mean, from the concrete floor up in that arena last night, I didn't see anything that represented a professional production. The talent shows up wearing their street clothes that, I'm no fashion mogul, but they're wearing shit to the ring that I wouldn't be caught dead wearing on the street. It's like white wife beater shirts were like the wardrobe du jour last night. First of all, you don't wear white on television. That's like rule number 1. Never wear white on television. And it's like last night, everybody's coming out in white T-shirts because that was under the shirt they were wearing to the building that day. I guess.
Wait, hang on.
Everything about it was so low budget, ill-conceived, and stupid. We're the best wrestling, my ass. It was some of the most horrible wrestling I've ever sat down and forced myself to watch. Some matches were okay, but it was garbage from beginning to the end. And I watched it last night because, I typically don't watch AEW. It's just not on my list of things to do. There's nothing about it that I find interesting or compelling. But, I heard about, basically a big reset. Moxley's taking over TBS. Okay, here we go again.
Oh, goodness.
NWO version 2.0 and AEW. The first one worked so well, they decided to do it again. And I thought, well, I'm going to give it a shot. Maybe it is a real reset. Maybe they're going to approach the product differently. Maybe I'm going to see something to get me excited and to make me think that there's hope. And instead, I think it was one of the worst wrestling shows I've ever watched. From the concrete floor in the arena up. It was so bad. So bad.